dumps. Big, massive dumps.
I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
There's insanity in the control room.
Big, massive dumps.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody, welcome to the show. Boy, we got a good show for y'all today. We're gonna do a deep dive. We're gonna do a deep dive, patented Waldorf Nation deep dive into stimulus checks. Were they good? Stimulus good, and should we send more money to people? I think all of you know the obvious answer, but I'm gonna walk through it. We got data, we get facts, and we have opposition. So I'm going to talk about that. That's a good segment. That's going to be towards the end of the show, the last segment. But first, we're going to talk about the time-traveling QAnoner. Yes, amazing powers from the QAnon people. I bet they saw this segment coming. So who knows? Maybe they've already got a response. So we've got that. We got Mo Brooks. Running from lawsuits, that's fun. And we have a segment that's pretty mask off. And by that, I mean, of course, mask off to some people in Ohio who literally cut the veteran's mic while he was talking about, while he was giving a speech about the true origins of Memorial Day. I know we're a little late on the Memorial Day. But seriously though, this is an amazing story. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Okay, you don't want to miss it. All right. Anyway, you don't want anyone else to miss it either. So if you could like and share, very, very important. Very helpful if you do. So many people need to watch this show. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying you're probably better off watching this show than many other shows, at least on the YouTubes. So, please like and share. Help a brother out. Help me get bigger. That's all I can say. All right. Anyway, let's do this. Let's dive into the show. Let's start out with our fun QAnoner segment. Oh boy. Here we go. It appears we got a live one, folks. There's a QAnon Twitch streamer. So, background information here. I also stream on Twitch. Now, this particular Twitch streamer has actually been incredibly effective at gaining an audience. And in doing so, she's had to tell a few interesting stories about herself. One being that she is a time traveler from the future. And in that future, apparently Donald Trump has been reinstated as president. And therefore, she needs your help to make that future become reality. But then again, if it's from the future that's already happened, then, okay, we're getting into a causality time loop. Oh my God, my brain is going to explode. All right, anyway, let me give you the details on this. Okay, so now Vice News is reporting that the streamer Terpscore Maris Lindemann has been whipping up thousands of followers to carry out a plot to oust elected officials in the U.S. and replace them with other members of QAnon. After months of building a network of groups in all 50 states, she promised her followers that retribution is coming for what she says was the stolen 2020 election. How many years in the future is she supposedly from, and why the hell hasn't she gotten over 2020 yet? Like, seriously. All right, sure, okay. Now, she again claims that Donald Trump, in this alternate future of ours, has been reinstated into office. Complete and utter insanity. Yes, she is causing a time paradox. Nuttiness, right? But it's not without purpose, of course. There's a method behind the madness. It appears that she has become rather wealthy from collecting donations from her devoted followers. In fact, she raised over $87,000 and used that to buy a Tesla. Wow. $80,000. I want $80,000. I want a Tesla. I can't afford a Tesla. I mean, again, Elon Musk is kind of a douche, but that doesn't mean the cars are bad. I'm just saying. How do I get $80,000 in donos? That's amazing. I mean, I must be doing something wrong here. You know? Maybe we'll rebrand for QAnon. I'm kidding, of course. It really does show you, though, how very easy it is for people to grift their audiences on the right. It really is. And let me just say, I have an amazing audience. You're all incredibly generous as it is. And understand that this is not about money for me, personally. It's about progressive message, making a better world, leaving the world better off than when I found it, and trying to get good policies for people. I unlike a lot of people on the right and some on the left, I don't want to grift you, okay? And besides, I know that you're all too smart for that. And besides, I could never do something just for the money. It would mean I couldn't sleep at night. Understand? I could not sleep, which explains why I don't have a $2 million house or an $80,000 Tesla or my own indoor skate park in a mansion. I can't do that. I do okay, but I'm nowhere near that level. These big names make a lot of money. And look, I'm incredibly fortunate that I can even do this career and without having advertisers, sponsorships, signing on to big corporations. I get my money through Patreon, donations, super chats, and of course, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, and the occasional ad on Twitch. So I couldn't base my career like some people do on lying to people, but apparently this woman can, and she does so unabashedly. Again, she calls herself a time traveler. And she thinks that says that there's going to be some great reset. And the interesting thing is, she's not just talking about it, she's doing this. Okay, according to Vice, her plan was relatively simple. Mars Lindemann claimed that vote counting equipment used in states across the country were not properly certified, and that as a result, all elected officials are illegitimate. Republicans and Democrats, all of them. Great reset. Okay, great reset. Now, she claims that this opens the door for anyone to file what's known as a quo warranto lawsuit, an arcane legal action that requires a person to show by what warrant an office or franchise is held, claimed, or exercised. Now, she, of course, has not provided any evidence to back up their claims. The voting machines are invalid, much like Mike Pillow. You know, they don't have the evidence. They don't have the goods. Okay, so they can't prove anything. All right. So now, after filing the lawsuit, any resident of a particular state can then apparently justifiably oust an elected official from the same district and replace them until a new election is held. Now, let's see. A person that is, this is a live streaming analyst that has been tracking Mars Lindemann's activity on Twitch for months, told Vice News, quote, "From what I can discern, the final step is meeting at the Ohio Supreme Court, where they will look to have Ms. Lindemann filing their election fraud warrants in an effort to remove the so-called illegally elected representatives and to take their place. Looking at her followers' messages and reactions, she seems to have legitimately convinced her viewers that they're going to take over the Ohio Senate and House of Representatives seats through this movement." So these people actually literally believe this. It's not only sad, but also kind of dangerous. Now, for one, what happens if this doesn't pan out? If your little plan doesn't work? Sure, you drive away with your Tesla, and that's good for you, but you think these people are going to go home? You think there's going to be, shucks, I guess it didn't work. All part of the plan, I guess. No, they're going to grab their guns. That's what they're going to do. That's really the final step. When people feel like they're out of options, and they really believe that what they're hearing is true, because some influencer on the internet told them so. God, I remember when our parents were like, don't trust anything people say on TV or the internet. And now you've got that same boomer generation that's out there going, by the way, you should trust, the person at www.freedomeagle.com. They're telling me that Donald Trump's going to get reinstated. These are dangerous. This is dangerous. Again, when people run out of options, they feel like they're out of options, they're going to grab their guns. And as far as these grifters are concerned, again, who cares? She'll just drive away with the money. She's making a good living off her own lies. She's not going to get in trouble. She's not going to get arrested. She did nothing illegal. Maybe she'll get booted off of social media. Who knows? But I don't really care. What I care about is the actual repercussions with spreading conspiracies that will ultimately or could ultimately lead to people being hurt. And that's what I'm worried about. We're in a situation now where one of the two major political parties in this country is a conspiracy cult. And that conspiracy cult literally despises their neighbors, the people they live and work with and share a country with. Despise them. Think they're all child or a Satan worshiping child predators. That's what they believe. It's insanity. Now, the immediate question, of course, is how do you get people to not believe that anymore? How do you break people out of that? I don't know the answer. I really don't. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I have no idea. Honestly, I don't know how to bring people out of this. But my question is, the other question I should say, is how we got here. And that I think I might have a little bit more insight. Because from what I see is these influencers and these politicians going around spreading conspiracies online, creating these, ironically, the safe spaces, right? And online communities that are separated from reality. And this is allowed to continue to fester. And again, if nobody stands up against it, if nobody goes to correct it and to pop those bubbles, well, then it's going to continue to spread. And that's terrible. If we can continue to look at how, and by the way, that's just one side effect. In reality, there are material conditions that will create this distrust of news media, government, et cetera, that lead people down to these conspiracy holes. And so the sooner that we find out exactly how we got here, the sooner we can try to prevent at least a large part of these people from slipping into this alternative reality. Okay. Moving on. Let's go to Mo Brooks. Speaking of people who spread this alternate reality, these alternative facts, Bunker Boy. Representative Mo Brooks is a coward. He is reportedly so terrified of the lawsuit brought against him by Representative Eric Swalwell that he has been hiding from process servers for almost a month just to avoid being subpoenaed. Talk about sad baby. So now, if you're not familiar with Eric Swalwell's lawsuit, basically it's alleging that Brooks, along with Donald Trump Jr., Rudy Giuliani, they all had broken the law when they incited the riot at the Capitol on January 6th. The lawsuit also alleges that they broke the Anti-Terrorism Act and aided and abetted the violent insurrectionists while inflicting emotional distress on members of Congress. Even members of Congress, by the way, who were like, oh, January 6th, nothing happened. Those same people were caught on camera barricading the doors and fearing for their lives. Yeah, right. So now both lawsuits, and that's not the only one. There's another one from another congressman who was also suing at least Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani. This one's a little bit more comprehensive, but they basically use as a way of basically getting this lawsuit. Like, they're using a law and citing a law that was passed after the Civil War. Okay. It was intended to combat violence from the KKK. And basically it allows civil actions to be brought against people who use force, intimidation, or threat to prevent anyone from upholding their duties of office. Now, certification, of course, being one of those duties. Yes, Congress has to certify an election. And if you try to, break up that certification process, delay that certification process, or intimidate people during the certification process, then yes, it would be against that particular statute. So now, of course, it doesn't get used very often. I don't think it's ever been used. But at the same time, it's technically on the books. So they could use it, and you could see why there is an actual case. Now, Swalwell claims the four men, Giuliani, Don Jr., Mo Brooks, and Trump Jr., they prompted the attack on Congress by essentially inciting them, egging them on, with repeated public assertions that there was voter fraud. They didn't find any voter fraud, at least not widespread. They found a couple of cases, and actually they were done by Trump supporters, ironically. They were caught, but in reality, of course, very, very few instances of voter fraud are actually ever found, much less prosecuted. It's not a thing that happens in this country. And so, nonetheless, they continue to push this voter fraud lie without any sort of evidence to back it up. Because if you're a Republican, you don't really need the evidence. Nah, who cares? Evidence, schmevidence, come on. No, we just want to pass anti-voting laws. We want to block vote, we want to enact voter ID. We want to block ways to try to increase the level of people voting, the amount of people voting. We don't like democracy, because it turns out when we have democracy, we lose as Republicans. And of course, you had the godfather of the modern conservative movement, Paul Weyrich, admitting that during a speech like back in the 80s, where he was like, hey, if more people vote, we lose. So let's not have people vote. Let's do the voter ID. And now, of course, Trump comes along and he's like, voter ID, we're doing voter fraud. Oh, voter fraud just means that anytime that I lose something, then there's voter fraud. And it's just a way to cover his ego. But nonetheless, he was out there, just like Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump Jr. and Mo Brooks, inciting that crowd on January 6th. Each man had told the crowd that Biden's electoral certification in Congress could be blocked. They even, by the way, targeted Mike Pence. Mike Pence, you know, he could block this, he could single-handedly block the certification process. He could do that, but he refuses to do so because he's weak. That's your vice president, and no, he doesn't actually have that power. He can't actually go and do that. It's just a ceremonial thing. He's not able to actually exercise any of that power, but they don't care. They don't care. And his own supporters were then, after they broke into the Capitol, chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." Yeah, because of course. That said, Brooks was among many of the Republicans that spoke at January 6th Stop the Steal rally that led to that attack on the Capitol. Here's what Brooks said. Quote, "Today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass." Now you can say, look, that doesn't necessarily call for violence. I mean, you know, people say, oh, taking names and kicking ass, you know, colloquially and whatever, right? It doesn't necessarily mean calling for violence. It's rhetorical. Sure, okay, yeah, gotcha. You could say that. It really comes down to the interpretation. I mean, some in the crowd appeared to have taken it in a way that meant go to the Capitol building and kick someone's ass. So I'm just saying. Now, Brooks denied responsibility for the riot, telling a radio show host the day after the attack that he absolutely had no regrets for what he said. He later then said in a statement that no one at the rally interpreted my remarks to be anything other than what they were. Pep talk after the derriere-kicking conservatives suffered in the dismal 2020 elections. Really? I would say that a couple of people in the crowd did take it differently. And I don't know. I guess you could say, hey, look, however they interpreted it, well, that's on them. Well, it's not necessarily on me. But I disagree. I think it is incitement. And I think Brooks absolutely knows it. In fact, Brooks has been using his involvement in January 6th in Facebook ads for his campaign, while at the same time, by the way, running away from any responsibility for his role in inciting people on January 6th. In fact, counsel had spoken to two different staff members on two separate occasions to try to catch up with Mo Brooks, and each time was promised a return call, which never came. So on the one hand, he doesn't want to take responsibility. And on the other hand, he absolutely wants to be known as somebody who, oh yeah, supports January 6th. Now the American patriots, yeah, that fought for Trump. Cake and eat it too. And remember, MAGA chuds love the attack on the Capitol when they're not blaming Antifa, by the way, for it. But here's the thing. Going back to the poll, did earlier this week, how you have 15 to 20% of American voters that believe in the QAnon nonsense. Okay? Now, there are some other findings in that. 20% of Americans, by the way, responded that they think that there will be a storm coming to sweep out the elites and install the true leaders of this country. Come on. I mean, what do you think that means? Who do you think that means? Obviously, Donald Trump. To them, at least. Not only that, but MAGA chuds are also saying that in August, the former president will be reinstated and replace Joe Biden. Complete and utter insanity. That's not going to happen, but guess what? They believe it. 15% of Americans think that, oh, no, American patriots should be prepared to use violence in order to make sure that Donald Trump gets back into power. So this is serious, and yet Mo Brooks is out here trying to raise money from it. Come on. And then runs away like a bitch when somebody tries to hold him to account. And again, this is nothing more than a civil suit. But he knows he's full of crap. If he actually believed this, he'd go to court and he'd defend it, just like Mike Pillow. Pillow guy can't wait to go to court. He's like, oh, I got the evidence. Oh yeah, I got the evidence. Just take me to court. Just I can't wait. Yeah, Supreme Court, 9-0. It's gonna reinstate Trump. No, not gonna happen. Not in a million years. But he still thinks it. But Mo Brooks is a slimy ass politician, and of course still kisses Trump's ass because the Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump. It is the cultist party. Mo Brooks is sad. He's a sad, pathetic, slimy politician using his base for re-election cash so that, of course, he can protect his power, position, and his money. One more thing here. I want to show you a video. This is Swalwell's attorney going on CNN to talk about how hard it's been to track down Mo Brooks. Take a look.
So, and obviously not routine here. I mean, your court filing says you've had to actually even hire a private investigator. And in the filing, you said this person spent many hours over many days in April and May at locations in multiple jurisdictions attempting to locate and serve Brooks to no avail. When we look back at that time frame, we saw Brooks did spend a lot of time in Alabama. He also was, we show him here, speaking on the House floor. I'm just trying to understand, what lengths have you gone to serve Brooks? Why is it so hard to hand him these papers? I mean, that's what, so everyone understands, that's what serving is about. You just got to go to someone's door and they open it up and hello, here you go, you're served.
Right. Well, the problem here is that, Mo Brooks's door is under lock and key. And until very recently, thanks to the insurrection that he in part incited, there was just no access to the primary place that, he was for much of the day. Tracking somebody down is not, there's no magic number of times or no magic formula. It just takes persistence and, luck sometimes. And it's not as though we're not claiming Brooks has been hiding in a bunker somewhere, but.
Oh, is he hiding in the bunker? Well, he's not going to say he's hiding in the bunker, but I'm going to say it. Mo Brooks is hiding in the bunker. Sad baby bunker bitch. In fact, you know what? Mo Brooks, no longer Mo Brooks. He's now Bunker Brooks. You're welcome. I'm here all day. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We have don't go anywhere. Okay. I have a veteran that was cut off for speaking the truth about the origins of Memorial Day. You are not going to want to miss this story. It's an amazing story. You're going to love it, and or you're going to get infuriated. And then I'm going to talk about stimulus checks. How good were they? How effective were they? Stay tuned. I'll be back like 2 minutes tops. Around the nation.
How you like that, boy?
Sharknado is number 2.
Mike Pounds.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation, right here, Waldorf Nation. All right, so let's go here and let's see. Dango Bango with some very kind of super chats here, talking about Matt Gaetz. Florida judge accepts Greenberg plea deal. That's Joel Greenberg, of course. Matt Gaetz going to prison. We'll see. I don't have a lot of faith in our corrupt justice system, so we'll see. But that would be great. All right. Anyway, thank you for that. Let's see over here on Twitch if there's anything going on. Hey, follow us on Twitch. Granny Dragon, thank you for the 2 gifted tier 1 subs. Thank you, Square Peg Round Hole, for the tier 1 sub as well. So very kind of you all. This is how we do the show. This is how the show sustains itself. So thank you very much for your kindness. All right. So let's dive in. The veteran story, I'm going to piss you off. An organizer was caught cutting the microphone of a veteran during a keynote speech honoring the role Black people played in the origin of Memorial Day. So now this audio was cut during an event in Hudson, Ohio, shortly after retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Bernard Kempter began discussing the role Black people, former slaves, had played in the origins of the holiday. Take a look.
The ceremony is believed to have included a parade of as many as 10,000 people, including 3,000 African-American school children singing the Union marching song, John Brown's Body. They were carrying armfuls of flowers and went to decorate the graves. Interesting that there would be a tie back to Hudson with that song of John Brown.
Most importantly, whether Charleston's Decoration Day was the first is attended by Charleston's Black community.
Mike.
AJ, Mike.
AJ, Mike. What the hell? What the hell, AJ? Now, wait. It's not AJ's fault. We're going to get to that, okay? But according to the Akron Beacon Journal, that incident occurred during an event marking the holiday at a local cemetery, as you saw. Again, you saw some of that because what I want to show you next, before we get into who cut it and of course into the context why, again, you already heard what he was talking about. The most innocuous stuff. It's literally history that they were talking about. And so once he gets into further into the history, because he wasn't going to let that stop him. His mic was down. He's just like, you know what? I'm just going to talk louder so that people can hear this incredible history. And again, I want you to hear this. Take a look.
2 weeks prior to the ceremony, the former slaves and workmen exhumed a mass grave of 240 Union soldiers and officers. They then took those remains and buried them in individual graves with honors. Now, each soldier was given a proper burial. They constructed a fence to protect the cemetery site and erected a sign over the entrance that reads, Martyrs of the Racecourse. The dead prisoners of war at the racetrack must have seemed especially worthy of the honor that former slaves had in treating their remains, because there was a tie between the slaves at that time and the Union officers and soldiers, because both suffered imprisonment and mistreatment by their captors. Not surprisingly, many white Southerners who had supported the Confederacy did not feel compelled to spend a day decorating the graves of their former enemies. I can understand that, being in the military. But in following years, it was the African Americans in the South who perpetuated and kept alive the Memorial Day tradition at that time. Now, my generation, probably some of you, grew up listening to the radio and listening to Paul Harvey, the commentator, who at the end of his specials would say, "And now you know the rest of the story." Well, now you two know the rest of the story about Memorial Day.
See, that's okay. So I love history. Okay, I didn't know this. I didn't know the actual true origins of Memorial Day. That former freed slaves had created the first memorials to Union soldiers. That's the real history. Freed slaves honoring the people who actually fought for their freedom by burying them, of course, with those honors and protecting them against racist Southern white people who had just lost this war. Okay? So now, I didn't know this before. I didn't learn this in school. This is not the story that we heard growing up, that people say about Memorial Day, and I have some ideas about that. Okay? I have some ideas about that. But first, AJ, what's with the audio? What happened? What happened? It turns out an organizer for the event, according to the Journal, confirmed that they did indeed order his audio cut. Now you're gonna love this reason because it's so transparently terrible. All right. So the organizer, Cindy Sukan, told the paper that the portion of Kempter's speech, the one where he talks about freed black people, was cut because it was, quote, not relevant to our program for the day. And that the theme of the day was only honoring Hudson veterans, which of course were likely to be white. Just say. I wonder why somebody would not want the overwhelmingly white crowd to hear about the contributions of black people. Why to them, the real origins of this holiday, of Memorial Day, isn't relevant? Because again, I thought it was super interesting. Just saying. And to me, I think the only reason that you would cut his mic is because, you might not want people to know that history and to actually celebrate the contributions of freed slaves, or even to admit how horrible the Confederacy was. Sukan, who the paper reported also headed the local Memorial Day Parade Committee and the Hudson American Legion Auxiliary, told the Journal that she or another organizer, Jim Garrison, had Kempter's audio turned down, but would not confirm who. Oh yeah, it was either me or another guy. Okay, well, which one was it? I'm not gonna tell you. Well, come on. Really? All right, it gets worse. It gets worse. Apparently, prior to the speech, when they invited Kempter, she asked him to take out those parts of the speech ahead of the event. Yeah, I see you're going to talk about freed slaves and black people and be against the Confederacy? Ooh, no, take that out. No, take it out. Gone. No. In fact, she told the Journal that parts of the portion of Kempter's speech in which his microphone was turned off were included in what she previously asked him to take out. Kempter also told the paper that an organizer had emailed him days before the event asking that part of his address that pertained to black people's role in the origins of Memorial Day be taken out. Whatever you do, don't mention black people. Don't take it out. Get rid of it. We cannot celebrate black people. Not at all. Nope, not allowed to. Nope, take it out. Get it gone. Now, the fact that he left this in, even though I guess they tried to intimidate him, I don't know. It would seem like it would be an intimidation tactic to me. And he was like, yeah, I will take your edits under advisement. Which is to say, he did not, obviously. Based. Super based. He's not going to let these people push him around, and that's why this guy has my respect. Absolutely. Big credit to him for speaking truth to power. But again, what's also messed up is how, by the way, that he didn't think that if he left it in, that they were actually going to cut his mic. In fact, Kempter told the paper that during the time that his microphone was cut, he thought, oh, it's just a glitch. Accident, right? They wouldn't actually cut me off for talking about black people, right? No. He was later told by the audio engineer, AJ Stokes, that it was, quote, not a malfunction. They did it on purpose because they wanted to hide the history, because that history reflects badly on Southern white people and the Confederacy and is positive towards the contributions of black people, freed slaves. And there is only one type of person that wants to hide that history from other people, and those people are racists. Now, speaking of the sound guy also talked to the paper. And basically, he was so incredibly livid that they had cut his sound. Stokes told the paper that he was asked to cut his mic and refused to do it. And so we now know who allegedly did it, according to AJ. It was Jim Garrison who cut the audio. The paper said that Garrison wouldn't say if he was the one who did it. Interesting. Very interesting. Now, AJ said this, quote, I think that was very improper. I would have never done something like that. I'm very upset over this incident. I'm telling you, once again, the only people who don't want to show you the actual history, or if they're going to show you history, will incredibly whitewash it, is conservatives, racist people. All right. And I say, again, conservative, mostly because modern conservatives are the ones who are most openly lauding the Confederacy, flying their flag, hating black people. They're also the ones, by the way, that project so much. They say, oh, liberals, what, you're taking down statues. What do you want to do? You want to erase history? You want to erase? I can't believe you're trying to erase our history by removing Confederate generals. And yet they are destroying the history. It is all 100% projection. They're the ones destroying history, trying to rewrite it, trying to whitewash it, and then trying to silence people for telling you the real story. God bless this veteran for speaking the actual truth. All right. Told you were going to love that story. Let's go on. One last one here for y'all. Stimulus checks. We're going to talk about stimulation. Ooh.
Don't you want to please me?
Big massive dumps.
Oh no, I pressed two buttons at the same time. All right, anyway, let's move on. During the debate over sending American stimulus checks that happened both during the election and, of course, following the election in the midst of COVID-19, conservatives were pretty openly hostile to the idea of sending families another stimulus check. So now, of course, these were one-time stimulus checks. Now, the first one, $1,200, was way back during the first coronavirus stimulus package that was passed under Donald Trump. So now Republicans didn't want to do that, but they also needed to do something because their donors, their hair was on fire. And so, yes, they allowed that $1,200 one-time stimulus check to be able to pass through. Following that, though, Mitch McConnell and the rest of the Republican caucus were not at all interested in sending checks, whereas Donald Trump did feign interest, mainly because he was fighting for re-election. So now McConnell's offers, his counter offers, included no stimulus checks for Americans. And as such, the Biden administration had to use budget reconciliation in order to get their COVID bill passed. So this was, of course, the $1,400 checks. Again, there was a $600 check that was passed at the end of the Trump administration as well. So now, again, McConnell only previously allowed that $600 one-time stimulus check in order to help Donald Trump's campaign, but no more. So the reason I'm giving you this context and kind of going through a brief history is because basically I want to show you that Republicans despise the idea of sending Americans money during a pandemic of all things. Okay. And while the $1,400 under Biden was definitely not enough, it actually ended up doing quite a bit of good. In fact, according to a new analysis by the Census Bureau, they know that the two latest rounds of aid significantly improved Americans' ability to buy food, pay household bills, and also reduce their anxiety and depression, with the largest benefits going to the poorest households, and those with children. Among households with children, reports of food shortage fell a staggering 42%. 42% from January through April. Wow. A broader gauge of financial instability fell 43%, almost by half, among all households, and frequent anxiety and depression fell by more than 20%. Damn! It turns out when you give people money, well, it helps. Maybe we should, keep doing stuff like that, which would be great. Now, you might be saying, okay, Jeff, look, it's not just the stimulus checks, okay? There was food aid involved, an increase in SNAP benefits. You had the unemployment benefits. It wasn't just all direct checks. All right, true, fair enough. But here's the thing. They found in this analysis, the largest declines in measure of hardship happened to coincide with both the $600 and the $1,400 checks that reached most eligible people in January, and the $1,400 checks, as I said, that reached people in April. H. Luke Schaefer, professor at the University of Michigan, who co-authored the study with a colleague, Patrick Cooney, wrote, "We see an immediate decline among multiple lines of hardship concentrated among the most disadvantaged family." Well, that was the point. You help people and reduce their hardship by giving them money. And it really makes me wonder, well, how much more would we have reduced it from had we actually gone and given people $2,000 a month until the end of the pandemic? How much anxiety and depression, how much more stable would we have made the average American family suffering from COVID-19 and the economic downturn had we sent them $2,000 a month? It would have been amazing. And not only that, but how much money would people have now banked up, ready to spend, now that, the economy is beginning to open up and people are starting to come out? I mean, I think the economy would have took off like a rocket. And yes, guess what? It would have also cost money. I know. I realize that. But remember, the Federal Reserve literally printed up trillions of dollars in, trillions of dollars for the banks, for large corporations. And so I think if you can do that, you can also print up money to help the American families. Okay. So of course they could have given people enough to pay them $2,000 checks and all of that stuff. Hell, we could afford to give people health care in this country. There's so much that we could have done, but instead we gave it to corporations. Yeah. So now understand that this is not a measure of resources, of finite money supply. No, it's really a result of political will. We just didn't have the political will to help the American people versus, of course, corporations. And those of you, of course, might be worried about inflation. Well, you realize inflation happens. It's already been happening. It's happened before the checks. It's happening whether or not you give poor people money or not. And I think one of the big reasons, in my opinion at least, is that you have the existence of mega billionaires that tip the scale. So they've got so much money that, of course, there's a lot of money in circulation, or not in circulation, that's being hoarded by people like Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon. They just got that money sitting around, whereas everybody else doesn't. So, level of currency being circulated around, prices will go up. And then, of course, you have low wages. You have all these different things. And so understand that rich people warp the economy in negative ways. That effect happens to be regressive. You have people with less that still end up having to pay more. And again, after that, they end up having even less. So that's why poor people should have more money and not be poor anymore. This is why jobs need to pay more, why minimum wage needs to go up, why there should be a maximum wage, why rich people need to be taxed more, because income inequality, turns out when you have high such levels, it ruins the economy. It's bad for an economy. When you have something that is so top heavy, it tends to fall over. Wealth, hoarding it does no good. Think of kind of our currency like a river, okay? It is designed to flow from the consumer to the business owner to the employee, who is also a consumer, and back around. It's supposed to be this great big cycle. It is not supposed to be hoarded. It is supposed to be spent on goods and services in our economy. And of course, understand that this is a very simplistic explanation of how things are supposed to work. Obviously, it gets a little bit more complicated. There are different factors involved. And obviously, right now, the economy does not work this way. And so as a result, the government needs to step in, provide benefits to people who don't have that money, because this money gets, the rest of the money is being hoarded by mega billionaires. Again, very simplistic, okay? But there's more to the study. Back to that. While the ability of cash payments to reduce hardship might seem obvious, Mr. Schaefer also pointed out that critics of such aid often warn that the needy, they might waste the money. They're going to waste the money. They're going to waste it. They're going to buy drugs. They're going to buy drugs and alcohol with it. They're going to waste the money. Wait, isn't that what you were going to buy it? Use the money on? Or a boat? To park in your other boat? Why is it that rich people can waste their money all day, but when poor person buys an iPhone or buys anything, junk food with food, suddenly everybody's judging them? It's ridiculous to me. Now, Schaefer argued that the size, speed, and variety of the hardship reductions vindicated the use of broad cash relief. While other forms of pandemic aid have been better targeted, some have taken many months to distribute and can be used only for dedicated purposes like food or housing. Cash aid offers families great flexibility to address their most pressing problems, and getting it out quickly is something the government knows how to do. True. Extrapolating from the survey data, he concluded that 5.2 million children had escaped food insufficiency since the start of the year, a figure that he called dramatic. I would agree. 5 million children are now more food secure than they were. That said, the analysis has some detractors, because of course. One of them is Scott Winship, who studies poverty at the American Enterprise Institute. He argued that such hardship would have fallen anyway. Oh yes, we could have not sent people money, and it would have been all right, because tax season. Yeah, it's a tax season, tax credits. That's why we need to cut taxes on the rich, but on everybody, but mostly on the rich. Between the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit, a single parent with 2 children could receive about nearly $8,500 in a year. Now, the thing is, think about that. The people who benefit from these tax credits the most, again, single families, they're likely not making that much money to begin with, $15,000 to $20,000. Likely minimum wage, okay? And then, if you're making that much, all that money has to go to survival anyway. All that money has to go to childcare. It's not going to lift you out of poverty, that tax credit. And it barely keeps you on the edge. So you're not really getting anywhere, because right now, wages are too low. things are too expensive. You have, again, student loan debt, expensive. Housing, incredibly expensive. Rents, super expensive. Childcare, incredibly expensive. Health insurance, if you're lucky enough to have it, even if you have it through work, or if you don't have it through work, like many Americans, millions of Americans can't get it through work because they work in low-wage jobs, well, that's incredibly expensive as well. So that's a problem. So this stimulus payments, this direct cash, has helped these families quite a bit. But Mr. Winship comes back and says, "Oh, it's just not sustainable. They're inefficient, and it's a poor model. Quote, it's not sustainable to just give people enough cash to eliminate poverty. And in the long run, it can have negative consequences by reducing the incentives to work and marry. That's it. Just get a job and get married. That's all you have to do. You don't need money from the government." Bullshit. Look, there's no evidence that giving people direct aid during a pandemic, by the way, you forgot that there's a pandemic there was a pandemic going on, right? And it is still going on. There's no evidence, though, that giving people money leads to reduced work. They looked at UBI programs. In fact, Finland ran a 2-year UBI study back in 2017 and 2018, during which the government gave 2,000 unemployed people aged 25 to 58 monthly payments with no strings attached. All right? The payments equaled about $700 a month, roughly. Now remember, in Finland, you also get free healthcare through the government, through taxation. And so you don't have to worry about paying for health insurance there, as well as education and things like that. And so it's already a pretty generous welfare state. And then you're adding a $700 stipend on top. Now, the $700 a month also was not means tested. It was unconditional. So everybody who got the money, who could get the money. And that would be everybody, no matter if you had a good job or had no job. So now it found out that, another part of it. So you know how the welfare system works here in America. You get a job or you start making more money. For example, on food stamps, you start making more money, your food stamp benefits gradually get lower and lower and lower until it cuts off completely as you make more money or work more hours, right? Welfare is kind of the same way. You pass a certain threshold, you get a job, you lose the benefits. And if your job's, for example, a minimum wage job, well, you're going to end up either at the same place that you were in welfare, except you're not on welfare anymore. But you're still you're still poor. You're still broke. So you're not really anywhere else than just working for somebody. Now, that might even set you back even further, because then if you're working and you're a single mother, well, you got to pay for childcare. Childcare, once again, prohibitively expensive. And then, of course, there's transportation to get to that job. And there's the possibility of working odd hours. And then, of course, there's no health insurance, things like that. And so you might end up getting a job and getting behind and making more off welfare than you would from a job. Now, obviously, the conservative solution to that is let's just eliminate welfare. No, the real solution is raise wages, provide childcare subsidies, things like that. That would actually help people get ahead. But again, I'm kind of losing the plot here. Going back, right? Now, the Finland study was nationwide, and they found out that people who were given free money didn't work less. They actually worked more. The study compared the employment and well-being of basic income recipients against a control group of 173,000 people who were on unemployment. Between November 2017 and October 2018, people on basic income worked an average of 78 days, 6 days longer than those on unemployment benefits. So it actually worked They worked more. They did better. There was a greater increase in employment for people, especially in families with children, as well as those whose first language wasn't Finnish or Swedish. So I'm talking immigrants. Now, they don't quite know why, the researchers in Finland, but it helped immigrants and it helped families with children. When surveyed, the people who received the universal basic income instead of regular unemployment benefits reported better financial well-being, mental health, cognitive functioning, as well as higher levels of confidence in the future. So apparently, this seems to have a lot more good effects to giving people money. And it doesn't destroy employment. And actually, really, I mean, you could just, instead of calling it a UBI, you could just call this like a freedom dividend or something like that. Whatever you want to call it, right? To appeal to conservatives. Because and actually, it's not just a gimmick. It's not just a name. It actually does work. And depending on how the program is structured, of course. There are some people with UBI programs that would absolutely, completely replace current existing welfare programs. That's not what we're talking about here, okay? Just for clarification, okay? But here's the thing, okay? It does enhance your freedom. Freedom to find a better job that fits well with your life and your schedule, or to get an education, to get a better paying job, and generally it just makes your life better, happier. But of course, there's a cost. Rich people might have to pay more in taxes, and it turns out rich people will not accept that. We can't have that. Remember, the American Enterprise Institute, where this man works, well, that is a Koch-funded conservative think tank. Okay, now it was designed. These think tanks, part of the Koch network, they were designed with one goal in mind: to make sure that the discourse is driven towards one end. That end is to reduce taxes for the Koch brothers. Now, Koch brother. Yeah. I know, rich people wanting to lower their own taxes. Weird. Very strange. What a coincidence. Now, again, these are the people in power who issue scientific data because they want to save their own billions of dollars. Again, they'll still be incredibly wealthy if you tax them more. And also remember that these people are so rich, they have so much money saved that they could ever spend in their entire life. And what do? They just hoard it. They hoard it. There's more, again, there's nothing they can have. There's nothing they can have in this world with the billions of dollars that they have saved up. But they hoard it like Smaug. Like a dragon sitting on its gold. That's what they do. And the reason they do that is because they think, no, I deserve it. I earned it. It's mine. It's mine. I don't think you deserve it. Oh, hell no. And that's really the core argument that conservatives use. And I hear it all the time. Well, why should I have to share my wealth with those people? And those people usually mean poor black people, of course. They're just going to waste it. You're going to waste it on poor people. Yes. Oh, yes. Poor people having a better quality of life, stability, shelter, and food. What a waste. What a waste of these people. I'd rather have a 12th yacht. Yes. Or a boat that I can park in my other boat while I'm at my 3,000 square foot mansion, I do declare. Those poor people, they're immoral and they're so lazy. Why should they get any of my money? Yes. Oh, they wanted the handouts, yes. You know what's funny? You know who loves handouts more than anybody? Rich people. Because they get them all the time. Subsidies, big corporations, tax incentives, tax breaks, the lowering of their taxes. And of course, they also want to be worshipped. A lot of them do. Because they think that they are better than everyone else. They want those tax breaks. They want those special rules that in some cases allow billionaires to pay less than middle-class Americans. So, no, Mr. Winship can take his opinion, his study, and shove it up his ass. Along with his, of course, rich masters. Because it turns out giving money to people is good for people. Giving money to people works. And it turns out people like it. And I think we should do more of it. Okay. That's all I got for y'all today. Goodness. All right. So let me read some super chats here. Let's see. Star Trek, that went off script and told the truth. Kudos. Absolutely. You know I love it. You know I'm here for it. LL says, great to see how the right fight like heroes against cancel culture and for freedom and speech. Sarcasm. True. Teresa Messenger, thank you so much. I will keep up good work. Thank you. Hey, every donation, every dono helps, and thank you so much for that. For helping to, let the show continue. Granny Dragon, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub. Much, much appreciated. All right, everybody. That's it. That's all I got for you today. I think I will be gaming later on tonight. I'm not sure which time, but I will be gaming later with Mike Figueredo, the Humanist Report. So we got this great crossover, which is going to be fun. And so I'm not sure which game yet, but we're working on it. We're going to figure it out very soon. So that said, it's going to be fun. Going to be good conversation. Please watch my Twitter for that. I'll tweet it out. Do that. All right, everybody. Thank you all. I love you. And remember, change begins with you. Thank you so much. We're going to raid here on Twitch. By the way, some of you are asking, what's a raid? So now Twitch folks, you obviously know. YouTube and Facebook. So Twitch, has this incredible feature where you can basically take all your followers and go and raid another channel. So say there's somebody on Twitch that you like that's got a small audience. Say it's only got 5-10 people watching, right? And we've only got 19 on our Twitch. But we'll take these 19 people and funnel them towards another creator. Therefore, boosting their channel, it is a gigantic signal boost to another channel. How about channels with zero? You could. You absolutely could. So yeah, there's a lot of good leftists absolutely to raid. I am discovering more and more people on Twitch as well. It's a great platform, not just for gaming, but there's a lot of great lefties on there. So that's what we're going to do. And I think we're just going to do a Surfy raid today. Because he does great content based. And we will do that. Everybody else, see you all tomorrow. Love you all. Good night.
Why, you're getting nervous, man.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Please clap.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
There's insanity in the control room.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
You idiot. How you like that, boy?